said that Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard of carbs.
Joy Behar strutted into the studio expecting just another routine episode of The View. She wore her usual confidence-like armor, flashing a smug smile with her coffee cup in hand. She thought she'd run the show as always, but she didn't know Greg Gutfeld was about to turn her world upside down right on live TV. The second Greg was introduced, the entire atmosphere shifted. It was like a thunderstorm had rolled into the studio. Joy forced a polite smile, pretending she had it all under control. But she had no clue what kind of fire Greg was about to unleash. Greg leaned in with a calm voice and dropped a bombshell. Some people pretend to be bold, but hide behind a script. That line hit Joy like a slap. She blinked quickly, clearly rattled and unprepared. The audience fell completely silent, sensing the drama was about to explode. Joy tried to steer the show forward, but Greg wouldn't let her escape. He was focused, sharp, and ready to confront her directly. Then he began rattling off her past quotes, each one more humiliating than the last. It felt like layers of her carefully built image were being stripped away. Greg exposed contradiction after contradiction in her statements. Joy's confident posture began to crumble with each word. Viewers watched in suspense, unsure whether to gasp or laugh. One thing was certain: Joy Behar was spiraling out of control.
Seriously, her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch and Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. It now smells like a humid day inside Joy Behar's moo-moo. The motives stink worse than Joy Behar's jog bra. I mean, assuming she jogs. Oh, wait, there she is. She has a point. Maybe I am obsessed, but some people are obsessed with Bigfoot, and they don't get to see him on TV every afternoon.
Joy let out a laugh, but it didn't sound right. It was weak, shaky, and everyone in the room could feel something was wrong. Her fingers clutched her coffee cup tighter, like it was the only thing grounding her. You could see her struggling to keep her composure. Then Greg delivered a crushing blow. The problem isn't your opinions, Joy. It's that you act like they're facts. The crowd gasped so loudly it echoed. Joy's jaw clenched the moment those words hit. The energy shifted again. It wasn't just a debate anymore. It was a full-on takedown. Greg never raised his voice, but every sentence landed like a punch. Even Joy's trademark eye roll fell flat. It had no power this time. She tried to interrupt, desperate to regain control, but Greg steamrolled forward. He repeated one of her latest quotes, word for word, then calmly asked, "So? Was that scripted, or did you really believe it?" Brutal. The camera caught her face close up, her expression frozen, lips slightly open, no response coming. She looked trapped. Greg leaned back with his hands folded, not smug, just steady. He didn't need to yell. The facts were loud enough. Joy glanced at her co-hosts, searching for support, but no one jumped in. Their silence spoke volumes. What started as just another panel chat had become a battle for dignity, and Joy was falling apart fast. Her sharp replies had vanished.
And last week, Joy Behar accused Elon Musk of being pro-apartheid, but then begged him afterwards not to sue. Musk lawyers have yet to comment because they're still checking to see if it's legal to sue a cow.
Shots fired.
Just a legal question. I don't know why it's so upsetting. I don't make the rules in this country. All right.
Joy finally brought up the word respect, hoping to shift the tone. But Greg didn't even blink. He nodded and replied coolly, "Respect has to be earned, not demanded." That landed like a knockout punch. The tension in the studio was unbearable. It felt like the air itself had thickened. Even the lights seemed too bright, and sweat started forming on Joy's brow. She looked rattled, blinking too much, nervously tapping her pen, desperately searching for a way to escape the pressure she used to control with ease. Greg leaned back, looking completely unbothered. "I'm just asking questions," he said calmly, but everyone watching knew those questions were cutting deep. Joy didn't crumble in one moment. It was a slow, painful unraveling. Her voice cracked, her tone grew unsteady, and the fierce spark in her eyes faded. She attempted another smile, but it was stiff, awkward, and full of strain. The fiery presence she was known for had flickered out under Greg's unrelenting calm. The camera zoomed in, and what it caught was undeniable. Joy Behar was struggling to stay composed, her once unshakable confidence slipping away. Greg wasn't cruel. He was clear. "You've spent years calling others wrong," he stated, "but who holds you accountable, Joy?" That question silenced the entire room. Joy opened her mouth, but no words followed. It was like the moment had swallowed her voice whole. Even her co-hosts were shifting uncomfortably. They exchanged worried glances, watching helplessly as Joy unraveled. Then Greg fired another shot. "You say you speak for everyday Americans, but do you even hear them?" The crowd couldn't hold back a gasp. Joy muttered something about just doing her job, but it rang hollow. It was clear. She didn't even believe it herself. Greg nodded politely, but his expression stayed firm. "You don't speak for people," he said sharply. "You speak over them." The weight of that truth hit like thunder. No one dared to cut to commercial. This was too raw to interrupt. The silence, the stares, the unraveling. It was all happening live. And what the cameras captured wasn't just a tense debate. It was the moment Joy Behar faced a truth too heavy to spin.
It's about the view. It's become like a medical hospital that displays human misfailure. Here, let's look at this political oddity. It really is like the left-wing equivalent of a carnival sideshow, except instead of bearded ladies and fat clowns and two-headed cows. Well, let me rephrase that. But The View is a victim of the sunk cost fallacy. How can you now speak the truth when for years you've been telling lie after lie after lie? Now you're carrying this big bag of rocks around you because it's too harmful for their ego to admit that we really were dishonest. And they could be honest. All they would have to say is, look, we hate Trump so much. We were willing to lie about Joe Biden because we felt he was preferable. We thought our lying and our cover-up was on your behalf. Just say that. You're still scum, but at least you're an honest scum.
Joy fidgeted in her seat, crossing and uncrossing her legs, adjusting her mic, grasping for control. But it was clear to everyone she was spiraling fast. Greg's smirk wasn't cruel. It was steady and sure. He knew he had struck a nerve, and once that happens, live. There's no covering it up. Joy made a last-ditch effort, bringing up an old comment from Greg, but he brushed it aside with a calm shrug. "Nice try," he said, "but that doesn't erase your record." Ouch! The audience began to murmur, and Joy heard it. That sound didn't just sting, it shook her. It was the sound of people waking up to something real. Then Greg dropped the line that finished it all. "This isn't personal, Joy. It's just the truth finally catching up to you." And just like that, boom! Joy's hands trembled as she clutched her cue cards, trying to find a lifeline. But even they couldn't save her now. Her eyes dropped to the table, dazed and lost. Every second she paused felt like the walls were crumbling around her. The strong, fearless Joy Behar was falling apart right there on live TV. Greg didn't gloat. He just kept speaking the truth. Slowly, clearly, peeling back her persona like old wallpaper hiding cracks underneath. Joy turned toward the camera, forcing herself to refocus. But her eyes gave it away. This wasn't confidence anymore. It was collapse. Her voice returned, but faint and uncertain. "I think we're done here," she said, but it sounded more like surrender than a closing statement. Greg leaned back and said nothing, letting the silence drive it all home. He didn't need to add another word. The truth had done its job. The crowd didn't erupt. They froze. Their eyes locked on the moment, unsure how to process what had just happened. Joy had been undone. Right on her own stage. In the control room, producers whispered urgently, debating whether to cut to commercial, but the damage had already been done. Joy sat stiff and pale, blinking slowly, clearly struggling to form a single thought. But nothing came out. Only more silence. Greg glanced over at her one last time. Not to argue, but like someone who knew the game had ended. A few claps echoed in the audience. Hesitant, confused. Were they feeling shock? Pity? No one knew for sure, but everyone felt the weight of what had just unfolded.
Here's Joy Behar talking about refusing to share a kidney.
I find it friends bizarre. With a Trump supporter. I won't give them a kidney, but I could be friends with them.
Hey, Joy, it's a kidney, not a pizza. Of course, she's kidding at first, but then she goes on to explain the moral foundation for her resentment, and it's the same one that drives all deadly ideologies.
Joy tried to change the subject, but it came out so awkward that the whole room cringed. It was clear. She was grasping for anything. Greg didn't even raise his voice. He just smiled and said, "Changing the subject doesn't change the truth, Joy." That line cut deep. Joy opened her mouth to speak, but all that came out was static. I just think... She stopped, clearly unsure of her own words. One co-host reached over and gently touched her shoulder, but instead of helping, it made her look weak. The same woman who used to dominate the room now looked like a guest, lost and struggling to keep up. Social media exploded within seconds. Clips flooded every platform with titles like, "Joy Behar Gets Humbled Live." Some fans laughed, saying, "She had it coming." Others joked, even her eyelashes gave up. And honestly, they weren't wrong. Greg calmly sipped from his mug, while Joy tried to pull herself together. But the version of her she needed wasn't there anymore. When she finally spoke, her voice shook. "I think we need to reset," she said, but it was too late. The internet already had the moment. Greg didn't respond with words, just a small smile that said it all. And that silence hit harder than any comeback. Joy saw that smile, and you could tell it hurt more than any insult ever could. Her face said it all. Then she rubbed her temple slowly, like she was trying to erase the moment, but the cameras caught every second. Right then, Joy wasn't the tough talker people were used to. She looked like someone unraveling on live television.
Now to some news. The feral monsters of The View say they've never heard of you-know-who. True, the show that makes mornings hell claim that my name doesn't ring a bell. It's time for...
Our view on The View. Ugh.
Yeah, the witch's coven finally shows me some lovin'. Yesterday on The View, yours truly was the subject of conversation. Apparently, the broads have no idea who I am, or so they say. Hit it, Gladys. Their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sonny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter.
Every second was captured in crystal clear high definition for the entire world to witness, live, and unfiltered. Joy tried to wrap up the segment, but her words tripped over each other. It was like watching a tower slowly collapse, piece by piece. Greg leaned in with perfect timing and said, "The difference between us, Joy? I don't pretend to be something I'm not." That line dropped like a hammer to the chest. Joy's eyes began to well up, but she blinked rapidly, fighting to keep the tears from falling. This wasn't just pressure, it was heartbreak breaking through the cracks. The silence in the studio was suffocating, so thick you could hear the quiet gasps of the stunned audience. Even the camera crew froze in place. Joy clutched the table edge like it was her last anchor. But her voice? It was shaky, weak, and stripped of all control. Greg didn't say another word. He didn't need to. His silence screamed louder than any insult could have. Joy turned her face slightly from the camera, just for a second, hoping to shield the emotion spilling over. But it was already too late. That raw moment had already been clipped, posted, and blasted across every corner of social media. The internet erupted. It was like a lion getting tamed by a house cat. One viral comment read, and it spread like wildfire. Her co-hosts tried to laugh awkwardly and switch topics, but no one in that studio could pretend they hadn't felt the quake. The producers finally hit commercial, but the shock had already sunk in. The damage wasn't just done, it was broadcast to millions. Backstage, Joy didn't speak to anyone right away. She just sat silently, eyes distant, as the room remained frozen in stunned quiet. No one yelled, no one rushed in. There was no chaos, just disbelief. The woman who once ruled the panel had just been rattled to her core. Greg strolled off the set, cool and calm, like it had been any ordinary segment. He looked like a man who didn't break a sweat. The contrast between them was striking. Greg walked away firm and unshaken. Joy looked like she'd just survived a whirlwind. News outlets jumped on the story within minutes. Greg Gutfeld silences Joy Behar in brutal live showdown. The headlines exploded. And that clip? It ran on a loop all day long, sealing a moment Joy would never be able to undo.
Terrible. Republican presidential candidate Tim Scott dropped by the Furry Five earlier today. And I thought the U.S. had a distinct policy against torture. He took the opportunity to call them out over crap Joy Behar recently said about him, specifically that he doesn't get systemic racism, which is like saying Brian Stelter doesn't get Ben and Jerry's. But Joy Behar gets racism after all. She's been black on Halloween. Yeah. But Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. But that is convenient, right? It's like one of my aunts dies every time Brian Kilmeade wants to hang.
Commentators from every side jumped into the firestorm. Some called it a reality check, while others claimed it was too brutal. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was unforgettable. The View's PR team went into panic mode, rushing to contain the fallout. They released carefully worded statements, but nothing could erase the image of Joy's face when her confidence shattered. Clips of her blinking, stammering, and visibly shaking caught fire online. Paired with Greg's calm and cutting responses, they instantly became viral memes. Some loyal fans defended Joy, saying she was simply caught off guard. But even they had to admit, they had never seen her that rattled before. Insiders revealed that Joy stayed silent about it for days. She called it the worst day of her career, one staff member quietly admitted. Meanwhile, Greg Gutfeld dominated headlines for days without pause. Invitations flooded in, and he didn't even need to raise his voice to get there. The harsh truth? Joy thought she was untouchable, protected by years of experience and authority. But in mere minutes, that illusion shattered. Greg didn't tear her down with insults. He used pure, pointed truth. Calm, direct, and piercing. And it broke through every defense Joy had. This wasn't just a tense exchange. It was a public reckoning. A moment where the truth forced even the most powerful to pause. People didn't just replay the clip for drama. They watched it because it was powerful. Calm truth had defeated loud spin, and the world took notice. Joy may recover someday, but this moment will never leave her shadow. It wasn't a slip. It was a collapse that millions witnessed. And Greg? He walked out with quiet confidence and a defining moment in his career. No yelling, just sharp, unshakable control. He did what few thought was even possible. He silenced Joy Behar on her turf, her platform, her show. He walked into her domain, took a seat at her table, and left her speechless on live television. And that unforgettable moment? It's now etched in the history books as one of the most jaw-dropping live TV showdowns ever seen.